How's it going? Coach Colin Castello with ShotMechanics Basketball. Today we're going to break down Luka Doncic Shooting Form.
This video is brought to you by our friends over at Noah Basketball, changing the game one shot at a time. Noah is a revolutionary technology that's changing the way the world thinks about training shooting. And for a limited time only, I'm giving coaches my 3 top zone-busting shooting drills that you can get instant access today. All you got to do is click the Noah link in the description down below and sign up for free. And let's make more shots and win more games.
All right, so Luka is a hot NBA prospect who was just drafted by the Dallas Mavericks, and I think somebody who's going to make an immediate impact in the NBA. One of the reasons is because he has an elite level jump shot. So what we're going to do today is break down some of his kind of shooting form and his technique. That way, hopefully, you can add it in your game and hit more shots as well. So the very first thing we want to talk about with Luka is loading low. Now, this is a concept that a lot of players miss, but something that Luka does really well. So basically, loading low just means as Luka catches the ball or pulls off of the dribble, most of the time when he's getting ready to shoot, he loads the ball a little bit further down here by his waist or maybe just a tad higher, right? One thing that we see with a lot of players is they get used to setting the ball on the shelf up here and then they have to kind of hike it up towards the rim. But if you notice Luka, the ball and his hips always move at the same time. When he's loading the ball down, his hips are going down. When he's loading the ball up, his hips are going up. And so that motion with that ball and his hips together is really going to allow the momentum to drive through his body and into the basketball on the shot. That's why sometimes you can see him knock down shots from way, way far out, like almost out by the volleyball line, because he's able to use that power and that fluidity all together. So the very first thing that we want to look for on your jump shot is see where you're setting the ball as you're getting ready to shoot, right? If it's up here by your chest or up here by your shoulder, you're probably going to actually lose power, right? So again, all you got to see is Luka's going to load it down here, and then the ball and hips are going to fire at the same time, bringing the ball up to a set point right about when his toes are leaving the ground, nice and straight. If you can load the ball a little bit further, it's going to help your range, it's going to help your power, and it's going to help your fluidity. All right, so the next thing that really helps Luka is what we call a zigzag, meaning that his chest is facing more towards the ground rather than towards the basket. Now, this is something that we see a lot of times, especially with younger players, is that as they're getting ready to shoot, their chest is really straight up just like this. And the reason why this is a problem is because your hips don't get engaged. If we watch Luka when he shoots, most of the time he's loading his chest further forward, and so he's getting this nice bend in his hips right here. And because of that, he can use his glutes and his power from his midsection to really launch into the shot. So again, this is one reason why Luka's so good at shooting off of separation, things like step backs, pull backs, all that sort of stuff, is because when he's pulling out of it, he's loading into this zigzag with his hips loaded and his chest down. That way, all 3 joints can fire at the same time. Again, because if your chest is up, only your ankles and your knees are going to fire at the same time because your hips aren't locked and loaded. So with a zigzag, we call it a zigzag because your body's going to actually make a zigzag. If I'm getting ready to shoot, if you look from the side here, you can see that we're getting a zig, a zag, a zig, and a zag with my body, right? If we break that last zag, we're going to lose power, we're going to lose momentum, and that's where we kind of lose a lot of that efficiency. So just like Luka, check your shot out and see if you're bending your chest forward a little bit to get that last big hip load and power. All right, so next what I love on Luka's shot is this feet sweep, meaning that when he shoots, most of the time his feet come forward and they actually land closer to the basket than when he starts. Now, a lot of coaches and players don't really understand this, and they think that jumping straight up and straight down is always the best way to go. Now, this works for some players, but I actually like a feet sweep for a lot of players because it actually gives a little bit better rhythm and gives a little bit better arc on the jump shot. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. You might be in the comment section right now getting all mad, being like, well, if you're sweeping your feet, then that's like shooting a fadeaway. Not the case at all, right? If we actually freeze Luka's footage at the top of his shot when he's getting ready to release, he's still straight up and down right here, and then it's not till after the ball's released that his feet end up sweeping forward just slightly. So really, it doesn't even matter, you know, as far as like the fadeaway is concerned, because the ball's out of the hand before the body actually tilts, right? But it's just a great way to promote this kind of pendulum of power. So one thing that you'll notice is by having his head and kind of his nose over his knees, just like this as he's getting ready to shoot, he's gonna pendulum his body from forward to backward on his shot. So as he goes up, he's going to be straight on the release, and then as he lets it go, his feet are going to come forward and land closer to the basket. So for you, you can try landing closer to the basket, you know, sweeping your feet as well, but really kind of think about, you know, you want to mess around with how far you're going. Some people like a bigger sweep, some people like a smaller sweep. It just kind of depends player to player. Now, a good way to test to make sure that you're getting this, you know, kind of right is on your shot when you land, if you take one relaxed step back, that means that you're probably kind of in that sweet spot, right? If I land and I have to take a big stumble and catch my balance, that probably means that I'm sweeping my feet too far. But if you watch Luka on most every one of his jump shots, when he lands, he takes one little step backwards because he's using that feet sweep and he's getting that pendulum of his body. He gets more power, more fluidity. So another interesting characteristic that Luka has on his jump shot is what we call a hip rotation. basically meaning that when he shoots, a lot of the times his midsection is actually going to rotate, and his right hip's going to rotate towards the rim, and sometimes even rotate a little bit further over. So, you know, we see this especially a lot if he's pulling up or shooting going to his right-hand side, where he can't really, you know, kind of fully get his feet turned into his shot. So a hip rotation is interesting because it really works for some players, and then some players it doesn't. So it's one of kind of the unique things on Luka's shot that I wanted to highlight because it's so interesting. So basically the idea is when you're getting ready to shoot, if your feet are started with a little bit of a tilt, when you release, you might land with a little bit more of a tilt, right? If you see Luka shoot, especially, you know, going to his right or from deep, a lot of times that hip rotation gets more powerful, and he'll actually land like almost completely sideways to where he started from, right? You know, I don't necessarily recommend this on every shot, but sometimes a little bit of a hip rotation actually works pretty good. So if you're, you know, having power issues or having, you know, issues struggling with your range, you can try on your shot just landing a little bit more tilted than where you started, and sometimes that unlocks those hips, unlocks your shoulder, and unlocks that power. So give it a try, see if it works for you. If it doesn't, don't use it, but if it does, throw it into your mechanics and hopefully it helps you out.